I'm delighted to say we can be joined now live on LBC by Toomas Hendrik Ilves, who served as president of Estonia between 2006 and 2016. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ilves. Has NATO, and specifically the US, reacted strongly enough, in your view, to the incursion into Estonian airspace on Friday?
Well, I think not only in Estonia, but most of Eastern Europe, we are expecting a somewhat stronger response, and we will be bringing this up at NATO tomorrow at the NAC, the NATO Council. Well, I mean, we see this constant escalation, and we see statements of concern. We do think that more is required at this point, given that we have had our own third incursion. It's very difficult for the Russians to deny something that is tracked on radar by just about everybody in the region, but that's what we have gotten used to.
And these fighter jets, they flew through Estonian airspace for 12 minutes. Should they have been shot down?
No, well, you don't. That's the ultimate response. Certainly, you can force them to land, escort them to an airbase, and then investigate further. I mean, there are gradations of what to do, but at this point, nothing really was done.
Do you think there are grounds here to trigger Article 5 of NATO? And if not now, when? I mean, if we continue to see Russia launching drone and fighter jet incursions into NATO airspace, increasingly flagrant violations of international law, at what point do we say Article 5 is being triggered?
Well, we can see that NATO is extremely reticent to undertake any kind of action. I mean, to be cynical about it, I'd say I think we need a mass casualty event before the member states are forced to actually take this seriously. I mean, we've had some near misses with bombs placed on planes that all so far have fortunately been found before they went off. We do have cases of major arson that we know the Russians did, but I think that it will take a genuine tragedy before NATO will get itself in order on these issues, just precisely because of this incredible reticence to undertake anything.
But isn't that incredibly dangerous, that reticence? Because, you know, whilst I understand the impulse to not want to escalate things, my sense is that Vladimir Putin is trying to fatally undermine NATO. He's never wanted NATO to be in operation. He doesn't like NATO being a presence near Russian borders, and he wants to see it undermined, and so he's testing. And he wants to kind of undermine the whole point of Article 5, doesn't he?
Precisely. I mean, this is what he sees. That with an absence of response, more and more countries are beginning to sense that NATO is not really fit for purpose. I mean, that is really what I think he wants to do with this. And he pushes every day a little more.
So if not a triggering of Article 5, what do you think the correct response should be from NATO leaders right now?
Well, certainly a clear new series of rules of engagement. At which point do you start doing what? The rules of engagement currently are very unclear. What we do in the case of an incursion into airspace. We have seen in the case of Turkey several years ago, or actually more than 12 years ago, I guess, that they simply shot down a Russian fighter, after which no more incursions took place. But it's important to note that they did that after having, I guess, 4 incursions from Russia into Turkish airspace and being warned that if you do this one more time, we will shoot you down. And they did it one more time, and Turkey shot them down. We have not done that here. I mean, even though Turkey is a NATO member, they acted pretty much on their own there without really bringing NATO into the game.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if NATO commits to doing that and taking that kind of approach this time around. I mean, do you fear that we are going to see further Russian incursions into NATO airspace and potentially even in the worst case scenario, the kind of mass casualty event that you were talking about?
Well, we see escalation across the board. I mean, we have jamming of GPS, which has led to serious problems not only in the Baltic region, but also when von der Leyen went to Romania. I mean, we've seen those kinds of activities. We've had so many different kinds of what is unfortunately called gray zone warfare. That is, which I suspect is a term just used to say it's not really war yet. But in fact, what's the difference? I mean, if you are planting bombs, they burnt down the largest shopping center in Europe, in Poland, where I guess 1,100 stores were burnt down. We have seen minor events such as thugs smashing the windows of government ministers in this country, and because they're not too bright, thugs get arrested. I mean, we've seen this, we've seen all kinds of activities, not to mention cutting cables, cutting communication cables, cutting electrical and energy cables between the transmit electricity between different countries. The interesting thing is that it's been more or less concentrated in the northern part of Europe. There's been a lot less of this in Southern Europe, though even there, too, we have seen cases of this kind of warfare. Not to mention the murders, which the UK is obviously familiar with, between the Litvinenko poisoning and the attempt to kill the Skripals, which then led to actually the murder of 2 British citizens. So.
Yeah, and on the role of Donald Trump here, I mean, he loves to say, he said it again this week, that the full-scale invasion of 2022 would never have happened had he been in the White House at the time. And I suppose we've got no way of either proving or disproving that. However, what we can say is that since he's returned to the Oval Office, Vladimir Putin has ramped up his war in Ukraine. We've seen further bombardments of Ukrainian towns and cities. We have seen the British Council, for instance, targeted in Kyiv. And now we've seen these encroachments into NATO airspace. How do you honestly think Vladimir Putin views Donald Trump?
I think he's playing Trump. I mean, for whatever reasons, we see that the milquetoast approach of the Biden administration and its fear of escalation, and so not really helping out Ukraine with what it needed, which many of us criticize today, seems actually quite forceful when we see rather robust rhetoric and no action, none, on the part of Donald Trump, who periodically says, I will make a decision in 2 weeks. And there have been so many 2-week periods now in which nothing has happened that I guess he holds off criticism by bluster, simply saying that, well, now I'm really going to get harsh. But nothing ever happens. And in fact, what we've seen is that that the deliveries of weapons to Ukraine have cut off. And most recently, this past week, we saw that, in fact, the weapons that were supposed to armaments that were supposed to come to Europe itself, to NATO, European countries, have not been coming and have been held up. At the same time, he's the arms that are supposed to come have been paid for by Europeans, since he has this, in his mind, rather clever deal in which he gets to say we're sending arms, but in fact, the European countries of NATO are buying them.
Yes, yes. Just finally, where do you think we are going to go from here when it comes to not just the war in Ukraine, but Russia's increasing provocation, I would argue, of NATO?
Well, it's an interesting balancing game, because we see on the one hand that Ukraine actually is doing better and better, and developing weapons that strike seriously at the energy infrastructure of Russia. It seems that they have reduced the amount of oil production or gasoline production by 20%. And we see that the Russian economy is slowly freezing up. It is not capable of sustaining this kind of war economy with a decrease in national income. And the consequent cutting off of all kinds of social services, education, and so forth that we see going on currently. So the question is, how long can we hold out without doing anything, hoping that Russia will freeze up, as it were, or its economy will freeze up, versus having more and more escalatory action on their part that eventually will lead to some kind of say, more serious military event in Europe, taking it beyond the Ukraine crisis.
Toomas Hendrik Ilves, former president of Estonia, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.